internet's bad in the office, to be fair.
She's
okay, we're live. She is persistent. We're having a few issues with some of the panelists joining, but hopefully they'll be here soon. But we do have 3 amazing panelists, so we'll get started. We'll do some introductions to begin with. Then we'll move on to some spotlights of each individual customer site and how they're leveraging Thrive within retail. And then we'll do some questions and a bit of a Q&A towards the end. So we're going to begin with introductions. Hopefully Becky and Matt can still join. If not, I'll pass over to Nicola first for a quick introduction.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh. So I'm Nicola Kilner, CEO and co-founder of DECIEM. We're probably more known for one of our brands, The Ordinary, which is sold in retail all around the world. And we have been a partner of Thrive for, a few years now, since the beginning, I think.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicola. Helen?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Helen. I'm the head of talent at DECIEM. Those that maybe are less familiar with us, we're a soft furnishings retailer. We sell everything for the home that isn't the bricks and mortar, pretty much. If you need a cushion, head over to DECIEM. You'll find a fantastic one that will suit, I'm sure. I'm really pleased to be here.
Thanks, Helen. And finally, Rob.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Josh. So yeah, I'm Rob. I look after L&D for Frasers Group. If you've not heard of us as a group, you may well have heard of one of our brands or fascias. So anything from Flannels, Sports Direct, USC, Everlast, Gyms, Game, Evans, and. Or maybe even one of our own brands, Slazenger, Jack Wills, Carrymore, etc. So yeah, great to be here.
Thanks, Rob. And I'm Josh. I'm Thrive's Chief Sales Officer, so helping lots of organisations migrate from more traditional learning management systems into a more modern learning experience. So we've got a few more panelists trying to join as well. We will introduce Becky from Ansomers when she gets here, and also Matt from Westmorland. But what we'll do is we'll begin with Nicola, and we'll start talking about DECIEM's experience and how they've been leveraging Thrive for the last few years in both retail, head office, science labs, and everywhere in between. Nicola, I guess you were one of our first customers, and you've been really on a growth trajectory, right, in terms of using the platform and rolling this out to global fascias, different departments, teams, etc. What's been one of the biggest benefits, I guess, in you using the platform to help you stay connected?
I think for the platform, and probably for me specifically in kind of a leadership role, it's definitely been the communication element, which has just been amazing. It's always a bit awkward when you can see your own face there, but yeah, you can see we do these 3-minute videos. So between myself and our general manager, Jesper, each week, one of us, we take it in turns as a 3-minute video that goes live on a Monday. And this is just giving updates on the business. There may be celebrations to share, things that we need all teams to know. So we'll find that, office team will watch this in their own time, but then it gets played in our warehouse, distribution centers. And we find because of the 3-minute format, it's just quick and easy for people to watch. And I think actually this really started, we were lucky that we had Thrive in place pre the pandemic. So obviously when suddenly everyone started working from home, I think we really got into this culture of doing really good business updates, sharing them on Thrive. And I think what's great is depending on the topics, what we're talking about, people can comment. So especially if we're celebrating a birthday or there's achievement, and you kind of get much more interaction in the comments, which is really nice. We run competitions on here, and Halloween's always a big one for our company. Everyone in the offices does so much fancy dress. And so again, this is an example where people will load their pictures up, people can vote, people can see what different offices are doing. So I think for me, just the way for a global company to stay connected, a way to almost talk directly to people has been amazing.
What was, before Thrive, did you have more kind of traditional ways of communicating with retail? Like were you sending out emails to people, that type of thing?
Yeah, much more traditional. Again, I think kind of within the last few years of our journey with Thrive, I mean, we've gone from probably about 200 employees when we started to 1,500 employees. And for any company out there that has had similar fast growth, I think communication has always been something that we are scored down on, teams feeling like they're not in the know. And again, that's partly because things change. It takes time to put the structure in. So I think it's just really allowed us to kind of have that fast pace. And I also personally find that if I write an email, it takes me, as in that I'm going to send to the entire company, 1,500 people, it takes me much longer because every word needs to be perfect. Whereas actually recording a 3-minute video, luckily I've got into the habit now of normally kind of first takes the best take, that actually it's a much more informal, just a quick way to get those messages. And I think people kind of, they feel what you're saying a bit more when I think it's virtual. So yeah, this has now become our more, well, for me, it's as much communication as it is learning. And obviously, if you speak to our L&D team, they put so much into the pathways, and whether it's product knowledge, whether it's skills development, soft skills, all the pathways are on there. But then I think from a leadership team, we use it a lot for communications updates. And then we also use it, I think, a lot from just a culture piece, so that you can kind of have those nice, especially with offices around the world, and also offices where we're only in 2 days a week now, and that's not even necessarily in every office and every role. So it really allows us to stay connected much more.
Nice. And I think that's been a growing trend for us as well, is most people come to Thrive and it's focused around L&D, which we'll get into with some other customers shortly. But there is this kind of unification of learning and communication in one single platform. Obviously, there's loads of benefits for that for retail, right? Single app to access everything in one place. So I think leading with comms is a great way to bring people in as like a hook, and then bringing the learning alongside that as well.
And you can see with the page you're on now, Josh, so, this is some of our founding team members, so people who've been with the company since the beginning, who, they posted their videos with just kind of favorite memories. So now anyone joining the company, this is there. Whereas I think in the past, when we sent things out on email, it kind of disappears. So it's nice that actually when anyone joins now, that these pathways are still there and relevant.
Absolutely. And I guess with that growth phase, and it's great that you've got people sharing their stories from early days, but you've grown to thousands of people around the globe. How have you maintained that kind of culture of learning and failing fast and those types of things?
Well, I think the culture of failing fast when you're a startup, it's something that kind of comes naturally, because you have many failures before any success. And again, I think actually the beauty of something like Thrive is it creates more of a community, which I think helps that actually failures almost become celebrated versus kind of a potential blame culture. So I think it's really helped strengthen that culture of just kind of quick learning. And again, I think, we're lucky that our workforce probably does swing more kind of Gen Z and in millennial, even though we are kind of across all demographics. So naturally, I think our workforce are just so used to video content. I mean, everyone's on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. So everyone's now just used to kind of consuming information in this way. And I think as well, it's kind of why we try to go down a bit more of the micro learning route, to actually just really kind of have more frequency, but actually kind of keep people's engagement for a shorter attention span.
Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing those insights, especially with the communication angle, because I think that's something that a lot of retailers are really trying to tackle in terms of how to really connect with audiences, not just in head office, but in the retail shop floors as well. Perfect. And we've got Matt, and it looks like Becky's connecting as well. So we've got some more customers joining, which is brilliant. Thanks, Nick. We'll come back to you at the end. Let's move into Frasers Group and Rob. DECIEM have been a customer for nearly 4 years. Rob's been not a customer for a year yet, so much more new to Thrive and kind of rolling this out. I guess, Rob, you've been in the industry for quite a while, launching different LMSs, that type of thing. What was kind of one of the main reasons you selected Thrive, I guess?
Yeah, I think, as I sort of alluded to in my intro, that the scale and size of the group, I guess, is one thing, but a large audience isn't necessarily the problem. If it was 30,000 Sports Direct staff, it'd be really easy, but it's across multiple brands, so it's the complexities within the audience that just looking at the screen you've got on there, clearly that is an our product view for one of our fascias, which is game. People in flannels don't necessarily need to understand in work at least the benefits of the new FIFA launch. So how we are able to cut our audience up and segment who can see what, so that from our seat, me and my team's seat as a central view, it can be a bit scary and looks very complex, but and clearly the view you're logged in as is an all-seeing guy, but we want to make sure that when you log in as in your context of work, you are only seeing the stuff that is relevant to you, and the brands equally, so it follows across. So that was really important to us.
And across the different brands, let's say flannels or Sports Direct or game, obviously there's different learning approaches in many ways. Some are going to be more compliance heavy. Evans cycles, for example, are going to have more of a compliance need, whereas the sports direct might be a bit more informal. How are you kind of approaching the kind of content strategy for the different brands?
Yeah, exactly right. And you sort of alluded to it. We're fairly early on in this journey, but and the content strategy is something that we're still sort of testing. But we're keen on getting to the social element. What we're not going to do out of the gate is turn creation on for 30,000 people, because I think it can get a bit tricky to manage. So we're going to go down the champions route of making sure that we have relevant people or experts in their field. You've got one on your screen there by chance. So Freddie is our expert in commercial, and therefore he's got the ability to chop and change that content and add to for our head office commercial function. Which again, we're talking about retail from a coalface point of view, but very much our head office people are part of this, and the differences in their functions across the verticals of in retail head office and our warehouse and logistics. So making sure it's relevant is really important.
So have you been going to kind of individual subject matter experts? Are you videoing them? Are you putting that type of content on as well as the more traditional stuff?
Yeah, again, we're sort of building out our content, our central content with a good pace now. So yeah, making sure it's genuinely impactful stuff. There's lots of stuff we could do for vanity, but we're a very commercially focused business, and therefore making sure that whatever we are going to do is going to add value and have an impact on our people and ultimately performance.
Makes sense. And if I had to ask you, what's one tip you'd give to another learning leader who's going through an implementation right now or thinking about going through an implementation of a platform like this?
Yeah, just being really clear on your intentions and how you're going to measure the success of this. Again, there's so much you could do, and just being really sort of laser focused on the things that are going to have the most value, I think is my biggest tip. And I think part of my role in the team, at least, is to maybe hold my team back a little bit from all the amazing and creative ideas they have, and making sure that we're being really focused on the stuff that'll add the most value the quickest. Makes
sense. And we've got a few more questions for you at the end. Okay. So we'll move out of Frasers and we'll go into a different customer. So we'll move on to Matt at Westmorland. We were going to go to Becky, but she looks like she's still trying to connect. So let's see how she's doing. She's texting me at the same time, so let's see what happens. So Matt, we were doing a prep call yesterday, and Helen was very excited because Westmorland provide the favourite service stations in the UK for her. You've gone a bit famous recently as a company because you're on TV show, which is pretty cool, and you've got the footage in there. What's been some of the highlights of your journey with Thrive so far when you've been using the solution?
I think, sorry I was late, by the way. I've run a few technical problems there joining the call in the first place. But I think highlights has been the level of engagement, I think, across our workforce. I think we've been consistently in the top 5 most engaged clients, I think, with Thrive since we started, which is brilliant because it's a brand new thing for us, and we're a family business and we're probably still quite traditional. So introducing Thrive from a learning and comms point of view was quite a big change. And I think the way it's been embraced has been brilliant. And we've got so many colleagues keen to share their stories, and the user generated content is I think it's pretty high in terms of ratio between that and sort of content we provide centrally. So I think just general engagement has been fab. It's only been 6 months, so we've 2 months of that was July and August. We're really kind of backs against the wall, busy during those months. So it's been a slight kind of things have calmed down slightly, but at one point it was we had so much interaction on there. It was actually quite difficult to keep up. So yeah, I think initially just the engagement has been fab.
And you are in that top 5 engagement ranking for customers. I saw that with some of the customer success team recently. What do you think made that happen? Obviously, there's lots of work you did around content strategy, building anticipation, that type of thing. But how did you make it land so well and get people to adopt like they did?
I think partly, actually part of it, we're quite lucky because we were a real storytelling company. There's loads we work with local producers, and there's over 200 of them, and everything we do is it's actually quite different industry wide. So we've got loads to talk about and shout about, which helped because there's a lot of natural sort of material there. But one of the things that worked well for us, we did when we went to launch, we did what we called VIC Club, which is very important colleagues, and we sort of ring fenced a group of about we sort of handpicked about 30, but then offered others to join, and we built a kind of a small cohort where we could introduce a platform and test a few things out on staging side before going live, just so that number one, we understood sort of technically how things worked, and then number two, other people understood it as well, and the right sort of stakeholders, the ones that are probably the more influential across the business, they got it and they were excited about it. So when we went live, they were straight on there, and they were championing everything that we're doing and posting content. So that really helped launch it.
And you'll be able to see on the screen, there's lots of kind of bulletins coming out. So it's super similar to what Nicola was mentioning at the beginning around communications as well. Was that always part of the strategy to pull communication in alongside learning, or was that something you just started to add in later on?
Yeah, it's funny. I just, as I joined the call, you were just saying about communication sometimes being the hook to pull people in, and then hit them with the learning. That's kind of what we did. We focused on the social aspect first, because we had a Facebook group. That was our main sort of source of communication. We've got about 1,200 colleagues, so we're not massive, and that seemed to be okay. But only I think 60% of the workforce were on it, and it was Facebook, and it wasn't really a way to do things. So, that was one of the key first strategies for us was just to move that audience onto here and get them doing what they normally do, but do it on the system. And if we get that as a win, first of all, that's the hook. People are on there, and then we can start to build in strategically the more focused learning stuff once people are actually familiar with the platform and the app and how to use it and things. So we're still on that journey now. We're still, although we're really happy with the engagement, there's still, there's a portion of the business that aren't on there that we're still having to work on, and we're always thinking of strategies around helping extra people engage. But we've got loads in the pipeline coming up that's going to really help encourage people onto the platform even more.
And then are you using the data insights like you see on the screen to really start to map out your content strategy in terms of when you release content or the styles of content you put out? Is that how you approach things?
Yeah, I would love to be more scientific and have more time to spend doing this, because I know Insights has been quite a new feature that Thrive have launched, and it's something that I think is great. I think having more detail and data at your fingertips is always going to inform decisions that you make. So we don't use it as much as we could, but we intend to. I think the one thing we do use it for is what you just mentioned there, the bulletins. There's 4 or 5 sort of key areas of our business that release bulletins, and it's quite good because I almost got them competing against each other for most views and most interactions and stuff, which was a bit of natural competition that's healthy. Works quite well, but they'll look at those insights. They'll understand when people are opening things and when other people are putting their bulletins out as well, so that we're not overloading people at once, and that we're hitting our target audience at the times when they're more likely to actually open the content and have a look at it and communicate with us. And
you touched on at the beginning around user generated content. That's usually something that a lot of retailers struggle with, to really get people posting actively on the app or on the web. How have you really approached that? Did you just go out to those initial set of users and they kind of created the trust that it was okay to post? And is that how you approach things?
It is. It's a really interesting point, because I remember being a little bit scared about that when we first embarked on the journey and thinking, what are they going to post? What is user generated content? And what does that mean? And what's it going to look like? And it totally happened organically and naturally with us. And I think it was partly because of your point there. Yeah, because we engaged people or a really good cohort of people initially, and which encouraged them to post. But it just kind of happened organically, where we get all sorts of stuff on there. A lot of it's really, really good quality learning materials, or be it podcasts or written resources or reports or whatever it might be. But people just seem to want to post and want to share things, which is great. We did do incentives at the start, which worked really well, where we sort of had 4 key incentives. I won't go into too much detail about them, but we sort of targeted individuals, teams, sites, and we asked them to do certain things to earn points and earn badges that would then give them an opportunity to win, actually win some tech, a tablet or a phone to help them then access the system remotely and things. So just little things like that also helped for people to start to encourage them softly to post things. It just seemed to spark it for quite a lot of people, and that continued. They continued posts on the back of that. So I think it's one of those things. Is it when a few people have a go, everyone joins in. It's just having those few brave kind of souls who are going to step forward first and put the next on the line, so to speak. But then once that happens and you pass that tipping point, it becomes kind of just normal, really, and that's where we got to, which is great.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of customers have done. They identify those knowledge experts who can shout about it, win trust, say it's okay to post, and then start to scale it out across other areas of the business. So many of our customers kind of pilot with an area first and then scale it in. I think Rob just did that recently. You went for one of the brands first rather than going big bang, just to test, get feedback, and then go further out to other audiences. Perfect, Matt. Thanks for sharing those insights. So we've started with skincare, moved on to sporting goods. We've done service stations and food, and I guess Helen will move on to you now with furnishings. I guess at the world of DECIEM. You've been a customer not quite as long as DECIEM, but definitely longer than
2 years.
2 years. 2 years. So kind of in between. Your journey has been really successful. It's fully embedded. You're over 10,000 people, so you're a little bit larger. What's your journey been like with Thrive from the go live to where you are today? Now it's a bit more embedded in the organization.
Yeah, we had a really short implementation window because we were moving from our old LMS to Thrive, and we had one that we would have been without any learning system at all. And we implemented in about 6 weeks, so it was a really fast turnaround. So we launched it just with the kind of mandatory compliance stuff that we had to allow us to get that there wasn't that content wasn't not ever not available for colleagues, because it's important that we stay legal and compliant and keep our colleagues safe. And then we continue to build out materials from there, kind of the more exploratory content, people sort of going and finding their own development opportunities and things they want to focus on. So it's been a bit of a journey to kind of get people to go on and do that self-led development, because we launched with the compliance part first, but we're definitely starting to see traction with that. And we've as you can see, that's our explore page. You can see there, we kind of really trying to make it as easy as possible for colleagues to find content relevant to them. So we have a wide variety, like all retailers, really lots of very diverse role types and functions within the organization. So what's important is that for us, that colleagues find stuff really easily. They don't have a lot of spare time, so to be able to get quick access to development is really important. So we use the explore page to help kind of categorize and break down content for colleagues, so that they can get it nearly straight away, a couple of clicks and they're straight to where their learning is. And then also having in that area sort of more general content. So one of our sort of people strategy is around learning, thriving and belonging, so that they've got content that helps them to connect to the organization, to really thrive within the business, and to learn and to grow in some of the more centralized, generic, open to everybody type pieces of content. So yeah, it's been a really fantastic journey. We absolutely love the platform, and it's been a game changer in terms of colleague experience that they have to be able to go and learn the look, the feel, the user experience that they have from what they were used to with our old LMS has been a real game changer for us.
And I'm kind of touching on what Matt was saying around the social side of things. When you launched, it was very stressful, and you had to launch in 6 weeks. And the focus was compliance to begin with. How have you taken people on that journey to really encourage that kind of social side? Have you kind of struggled with that? Has it been something that you've spent a lot of time on, or is it something that just isn't a part of the culture at DECIEM? Is it more kind of let's just get the compliance done and you do it in different ways?
No, it's definitely something that has got better, and we want to continue, because we really want to encourage sort of social learning, sharing knowledge with each other, rather than it always being a centrally driven activity. Any kind of learning thing, it should be learning from peers, social learning, learning from experts, rather than kind of just the L&D team generating content. We have a separate communications platform. So I suppose where some of the other guys on the call have talked about being able to kind of use it's a one-stop shop for communication and learning. We have a separate communication platform. So it's about trying to generate some of the behaviours of what they're doing on the communications platform to do the same sort of thing through Thrive. And we're also trying to encourage them to get rid of the communications platform and do everything through Thrive. So those are ongoing conversations that we're having, because it would just feel like it just feels like a better experience from a colleague perspective, that they just have one place to go for everything. So they're internal conversations that we are having, because we can really see the benefit. But I guess because we communicate to people in a different way, getting the kind of the social element on the platform has been more difficult, because they're going to complete necessary things they have to, But as they're starting to explore and find the different self-led materials, we're starting to see that increase now.
Mm-hmm. And if you had to give another L&D leader a tip when they're thinking about launching a platform like this, what would that tip be? Probably don't launch in 6 weeks, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, have more time. No, I think just being really clear on what having the strategy, that groundwork you do at the very start before you even start thinking about loading anything into the platform, looking at old material or old content from your old platform to move across. I think just being really clear on what you want the platform to be, and ultimately for us, it's always having the colleague at the sort of front and center. What is the experience that they're going to have? Ultimately, is driven how we've built the platform out, how we've actually done a bit of a refresh because we were 2 years in. So we've done a bit of a refresh to try and help navigation, make that a bit easier for colleagues, and ultimately it is about that colleague experience. So having them at the heart of everything that you do and understand what you want their experience to be will mean that you'll deliver a great experience for them through the strategy, the content, how you structure the platform, all of those things.
Perfect. Well, thanks for sharing those insights, Helen. Really interestingly, slightly different to those in the sense that you're not using it for comms, it's more kind of compliance focused, but hopefully you'll be using it for communication soon, fingers crossed. We did have Becky from Ann Summers due to join, but she can't connect. Her IT systems have blocked the software, which is a little frustrating. She's quite disappointed she can't be on. She really wants to be on. So maybe we'll host a separate session with Becky at some point, because they've got lots of exciting stories about the improvements of sales that they've seen as a result of actually deploying Thrive training, which is actually super interesting. So what we'll do is we'll cut this a little bit short. We do have some kind of quick fire questions. Maybe the group of us can answer the question that we asked Becky. We'll do that a bit of a collaboration. So let's start with these quick fire questions, and then we'll see if there's any questions from the people that have joined today, and then we'll wrap up and go from there. So first question is to Nicola, which should be coming up on the screen in a second, I'm hoping. The software, there we go. So Nick, what advice would you give to other leaders who are hesitant about investing in more social platforms like Thrive?
I think the advice would be to kind of look at the workforce, and I think look at all of us in our daily lives, how much many of us now use social systems. Like, it is becoming just a way of being. And I think even the blend between work and home life is getting more and more blurred with working from home and social similarly. And I think what we found is by having such a social platform, actually people's just feelings of positivity and belonging and engagement have probably gone through the roof more than we could have ever anticipated. And again, I think, as a consumer brand, we're very busy on TikTok and all the other social platforms. So just the kind of flow from the ones that they're using at home, and then there's product information, it comes onto Thrive. It's just a really nice flow through. And I know our team, a lot of them use the app as well, because again, it's on their smartphones, it's on their iPads in store. So it's just a really good user flow.
Lovely. I might open it up to Rob as well. Rob, any thoughts on that question as well? Throw that out to you last minute. You haven't prepped that one.
No. Well, look, everything that has just been said, I tend to agree with. I think in a world where everything is social, why not bring into that into your learning platform? Equally, I suppose my worries and risk-averse side around how we police is maybe a bit strong, but how we make sure that the right things are appearing to the right people is important as well. So I can sort of see both sides.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the customers that are the most engaged, DECIEM and Westmorland are two examples. Dunelmar as well, by the way. But they're super social and pushing out that kind of modern style of content, allowing and trusting people to post whatever they want. We do, of course, have the tools to switch that off. So many customers do switch off user-generated content. They maybe don't begin with it, but in time they start to introduce it. So there's lots of flexibility with it, depending on how you want to approach things. That's perfect. We'll go to the next question. I believe it's for you, Rob. Let's get it on the screen for everyone to see. There we go. What's the biggest challenge in deploying a platform to an organization of your size? Obviously, you're growing increasingly with acquisitions, etc. So what's the biggest challenge you'd say?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, the sort of the number isn't necessarily the scary bit; it's the complexities within. So you mentioned that we'd sort of launched to one of our. It's a part of our business rather than one of the brands. It's our newest part really in the financial services industry. So Frasers Group Financial Services, clearly a very heavily regulated service, have got very different needs to maybe some of the other parts of our business. So I think the biggest challenge is making sure that you understand the needs of each part of the business when it's a big and complex one, and making sure you can sort of tick the boxes that are being asked of you from both a senior leader point of view, but potentially more importantly from a user experience and people point of view in the context of their work. How can we help them be better at stuff? And that's the important stuff to be really focused on for me.
And a bit of a follow-up to that, how did you navigate persuading other leaders in the business to come on board with a platform like Thrive? You already had an existing LMS, right?
Yeah.
Is it hard to persuade a big change of that? Because obviously a change of software for a large organization is very expensive from a license perspective, obviously, but resources. So was it quite a challenge to persuade people to move to a more kind of social, modern platform?
Not overly challenging, if I'm honest. I think there are an acceptance that as we've grown, both in size and complexity, and through acquisition, clearly that's no secret, and I don't think that'll ever change. Having a platform that can move as quickly as we do and be agile and not cause challenges and problems every time we need to add in a new face or a new brand or a new few thousand people here and there. And I think what we've found with Thrive is a platform that can definitely do that.
Amazing. Thanks both. Next question, I believe, is Matt. Back to you. So we kind of touched on this a little bit, but how's the platform helped change the culture of learning at Westmorland?
Yeah, we kind of touched on a few of these points earlier, but I think one of the key ones was for us, we probably lacked a structured, robust framework for that initial colleague engagement training period for the first few months. So I think one great thing it allowed us to do is create pathways that are bespoke to people in certain areas of the business that give them a proper structured framework for them to be trained against and to help them learn that important knowledge that we need. But also we can then measure training as well, and we can understand who has been trained, who isn't, and we can do that in a much more of a clear and concise and structured manner, which is great. I think culturally it's a big change for us because of a lot of it's mobile phone access for our colleagues and also laptop based, but we're a very operational business, so we had to change our rules a little bit in terms of our mobile phone policy. We've had to look at things like creating learning areas on site and learning laptops and stuff so that people can actually access the tech at the point of need, so they can actually conduct the training that they need to do, which is a big thing. But I think more than anything else, from a cultural point of view, it's about the breaking down of barriers and improving the inclusivity. I think we've got certain areas of our business. For example, we've got a big production kitchen at one of our sites that almost feeds the rest of the sites. It's massive. It kind of is the unsung hero of the business, and they never really had a voice in the past. But it's a great opportunity then for people in those areas to show what they do and talk about what they do and help people understand and how valuable what they do is to the business, and ultimately connect with people across the business, breaking down those barriers and having a bit more of a sort of an open culture where everyone can access every part of the business.
Yeah, we see that across other customers. Of course, we're talking a lot about technology here, but a lot of the technology is not that relevant, right? That's the vehicle to deliver the content to people. I think a lot of it starts with actually just getting leaders across the business really bought in, being familiar, using the platform themselves, like Nicola shared earlier, because it really does allow people to just feel that they can actually post and share and comment, that type of thing. Because without that, the platforms just become a place where you just push content at people and they're just going to complete the health and safety training because they're told to do so, that type of thing. So technology is definitely an enabler, but I think the culture set from the top down in terms of how we're going to approach this definitely helps as well.
Definitely, yeah. It's not always easy either. I think it hasn't. There's always some that need more persuasion than others. I think in business in general, isn't there? And some stakeholders are absolutely just understand it from the get go, and others perhaps need a bit more work. So I think being strategic about that as well, and making sure that the stakeholder management bit is considered, so that everyone does end up playing their part is important.
Absolutely. Thank you, Matt. The next question, I believe it's for Becky. Let's see, and we can tackle it if it's for Becky. It was for Becky, which we've kind of touched on some of these aspects anyway. And some are super social in terms of how they use the platform. They're one of the most in terms of liking, posting, commenting. They use it for comms, or then newsletters go out there. So they don't have too much of a hard time, because it is a bit similar to DECIEM in that it is the place you go to post, share, that type of thing. One thing that sorry, go on.
Sorry, Josh, I was going to just jump in. We've got 40 of our own stores, and then we've got 30 counter store in stores. And actually, probably our store teams are some of the most engaged with Thrive. And we have run competitions, again, I think similar to what Matt was saying in the beginning, to get people on. But I find like actually our retail stores were probably the teams feeling the most disengaged. You know, there was always some conflict, I think, between head office teams and the retail teams. But actually Thrive's really bridged that, because the retail teams, we just post a picture of the store, of a dog that was in store, or something like that. And then you have the office team commenting, and actually it's built relationships that way. So I think it's been really good for us, and really kind of doing those bridges.
One thing we did touch on at DECIEM, Nicola, was how you use the platform to do live broadcasts as well. You did that a lot during COVID, right?
Yeah, so we use the live broadcast feature whenever we have, I guess, a very important announcement that we want as many people to listen at the same time as possible. We will do the live broadcast, and we always get a very huge attendance, because everyone kind of wants to be there at the time that it's being announced. And actually, I find those really good, because again, they're very engaging. People can comment. It's kind of one way, I guess, similar to like this. So kind of it's only you on the screen, but then everyone can comment together. So whenever we've got big announcements, we always do a live broadcast through the Thrive platform. And we can do training like that as well virtually. So again, depending on what the topic is, if it's something that we need people to be connecting and learning at the same time, then we will use the live broadcast feature, which has been amazing.
Nice. And for people that aren't familiar with what broadcast is, it's ultimately like LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, super similar. Nicola could go live, hundreds of people can join, comment, polls, that type of thing, all within the platform. Thank you for that. And then final question is for Helen. Let's pull that out. There we go. So obviously, Helen, at Dunelm, you're using it outside of retail as well, right? For supply chain, warehousing, that type of thing. How's it helped you reach those colleagues with multi-devices and stuff?
Well, I think generally in those, especially in operational areas, even with our stores, to be fair, but in a place like a distribution warehouse, they need to be on the floor. They need to be doing the role that they've been recruited to do, and their downtime is really, really minimal. And also the leaders in the operation need to hit targets and all of those things like you would have in a place like that. So having it worked really, really well on mobile, having the app. We also have tablets, learning tablets that are kind of available in those spaces for people to be able to do it. So they can access it really easily. But also what's really important is kind of the bite-size element, the fact that we can create really short learning modules that they can complete within 5-10 minutes, and it means they can do it, and then they're back off doing the job and practically applying the skills that they've learned. So we have they're called SOPs, but sort of standard operating procedures for the different roles, and they can do some dedicated learning in a very short bite-sized module, but then go and physically try it and practice it, and sort of to help embed that new skill that they've gained. So the fact that it's in small pieces, the fact that they can access it on the warehouse floor through mobile or through devices that we've given them, it means that we're kind of not having to sort of risk the operation and them achieving what they need to do for the customer, but also that the colleagues are getting a really good experience and kind of do it in the moment and validate their learning through practical application as well. So that's nice. Working really, really well. And the other thing I was just going to mention is we've also quite recently we have 2 Thrive sites. We have one for our suppliers as well. So we are have over hundreds and hundreds of product suppliers that we are going through a significant piece of work, changing ways of working and processes. So we've got a dedicated supplier platform as well, so that we can make sure that suppliers are trained in our new systems, ways of working. We're able to monitor, we're able to report on and check what they've done, and they can again do the 2-way communication with us through that platform. When they're not sure about something, they've got resources to go back to as they're going through these new ways of working in the future. And we're using the live broadcast feature on that platform as well to kind of talk directly to suppliers in China, in India, places like that. So that's allowing us to reach a further network that's not on our internal system, but we have a separate platform for that, and that's being really successful for us at the moment.
Yeah, we're seeing that a lot. Of course, I think most of you will add more users on the platform, definitely at peak times like Christmas, for seasonal workers who might just be on the platform for 4 to 8 weeks at peak periods. I know, Rob, we've talked about that. You'll have a big drive and then you need to add more users on. So the use of an additional site to manage kind of extended contractors, partners, etc., is definitely what a lot of people are doing as well, which is really interesting. I'm conscious of everybody's time, and there's a lot of questions in the comments. We don't have time to get through all of them, but I've picked out 3 which we can answer. Nicola's asked a question directly to you, Rob, about how you found it managing different brands. How would you consider that?
How I found it complicated. Tom might have in my team. So look, yeah, we like I said, it's about being really clear on what it is each of them need. So no, not really. I think. Yeah, sorry, I'll change that. It is complicated, but it's not necessarily hard, and I think that's the differentiation. I think to understand that, in complexity, actually, it's necessary, and spending the time to understand that. But actually, on this platform, you can cut it up really easily, and so I think again, like I said earlier, from our seat, it can potentially look really complex, but understanding that is really important, so that it's not complex at all for the end user. And we spent a lot of time and effort on that and mapping things out, who can see what, and that's been pretty easy to do. We've got a separate domain. I might be getting some of the technicalities here wrong, but for one part of our business, who have their own sort of needs, and again, I talked about acquisitions earlier. We acquire businesses that are all sorts of different active directories, and how do you then merge them in? So for a business as big and complex as that, as it can be challenging, but actually it's been relatively easy. Speaking for Tom.
Perfect, thank you. The next question's from Sean, which I think Nicola might be best to answer this. You find that people are looking for more short content similar to TikTok?
Yeah, definitely our workforce like very bite-sized, I think particularly for our retail teams, because whilst they will have some dedicated learning time, they will also just use downtime in store to kind of have the iPads and be learning. But it's regularly interrupted with customers coming in. So I think they just love those kind of bite-sized to just remind themselves, particularly on product knowledge and ingredients. So I think we are seeing the influence. But then also, as I mentioned, I think because we are talked a lot about on TikTok for our brand, it's also really good to actually pull the TikTok videos into Thrive. So again, it's kind of user-generated content, but from the influencers that I know our team love to watch as well.
Amazing. And we also produce content at Thrive as well, and it used to be kind of 10 minutes in length or less, and now we're kind of increasing that a lot as well, given attention spans and the rise of TikTok. So a lot of our content as well that we produce is definitely shorter, given the nature of content people are looking for. Thank you, Nicola. Next question might be best for you, Helen, actually. Are you seeing a push towards more blended approaches versus digital learning or face-to-face, and how do you facilitate that?
Sorry, was that to me, Josh?
Yes, it was.
I didn't hear the name.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
think I've got a bit of slight delay. Yes, we are definitely seeing we're definitely seeing a blend approach that's working best. I think there's real value in being face to face with people, and especially with anything that's kind of leadership or behavioural based. Those conversations are really, really important. So having those face to face activities really add value. But with all the different learning streams that we have, or different programs of activity that we run, there will always be an online element to it. So it's kind of to complement the subject matter, to help validate understanding, additional resources around the subject matter that we might be talking about. So our core leadership program, as an example, is 20 different modules. There's always a workshop as part of that, but then there is also always online materials that we're encouraging people to go and do in their own time to help embed and validate their understanding and give them some additional resources to look around the subject matter, especially for those people that really enjoy kind of going really deep into a subject. It gives them that opportunity to do that. So we absolutely do both of those things. So workshops are booked through Thrive. That could be a virtual workshop or a face-to-face workshop. And then there's a learning pathway for each module where they go and find the additional resource.
Mm-hmm. And the skills and goals functionality, I think, could really help that as well, whereby someone's going to watch something, then be set a goal by their manager where they have to go do something in a store. Like it could be visual merchandising. They have to record how they can dress a shop window, that type of thing. So there's lots of ways you could use skills for that as well. Thank you, Helen. And the last question is actually from Tom, who's in Rob's team, which is quite funny.
Stitching me up, is it?
No,
Nice for everyone else.
Can't ask you this question then. I guess I'll ask this to Nicola, because Westmorland and Dunelm are more UK centric, although Dunelm do have some outside, I believe. So Nicola, I guess for you, what's the challenges and solutions you encountered in Europe or across the globe?
I actually can't say we've had too many challenges in Europe, but that's largely because everyone we have employed, they have been able to speak English. And again, that's just partly, I think, with the nature of where our company was, and the fact that all of our training and teams. So I actually can't say we've had too many challenges. I think we are launching into APAC, where I would see that becoming a little bit more of an issue because there's definitely less English speaking there. But for Europe, actually, it's again just brought us a great chance to bring everyone together.
Amazing. And Helen, Dunelm are UK only, right? We've got that right. You don't have any outside of the UK aspects to the business, or do you?
No, we've got some. No, all in the UK. A few stores in Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, but no, nothing in Southern Ireland at this point, or anywhere else.
Amazing.
But watch this
So
space.
Tom,
You never know.
You never know. And Tom, I'll follow up with you separately about some customers that do, for sure, because there's lots of them. So yeah, we can follow up as well separately. Well, let's leave it there. I want to say a huge thanks to everyone for joining. Becky from Ansem sends her apologies. We'll do a separate one with her for sure. So thanks to Matt, Nicola, Helen, and Rob. Our next big event at Thrive is our customer event, which is on the 28th of September at the Science Museum in London. There's still a few spaces available for any customers that wish to join. So we'll be seeing Mo Gaudot, Karen Brady, and a few customers are speaking as well. So thanks everybody for joining today. Really appreciate it, and have a good evening. See you soon.
Cheers.